Hello and welcome back to the Advanced English Podcast, the podcast specifically tailored for C1 and C2 level learners who are determined to bridge the gap between intermediate and textbook English and true native fluency. I'm Hayley, and today I've got something a little different from our usual episodes. I thought it'd be nice to have a change and read you a short story. So I picked a gripping story called Katakatesh by the brilliant Adam English, and his story won the NYC Midnight's highly competitive short story challenge in 2023. And I think this story stuck with me a little because it's set in Blackpool, which is about a 40-minute drive from my hometown in the northwest of England, so maybe it had a little sense of home for me. But before we get into the story, just a little reminder, the transcript is available to download completely free in the description. So click the description there and you'll be able to download that and get all of the vocabulary from today's episode. That's going to help you with your Cambridge C1 and C2 exam. Or better yet, why not head on over to our brand new grammar and vocabulary platform where you can practice all of the vocab from today's episode in an interactive way by playing interactive games and exercises. The link is also in the description for you as well. And anyway, without further ado, let's get into our short story, Katakatesh. Annabel Flannery's tiny bungalow hugged the ground, as if in constant fear of something hurtling past and tearing its roof off. It was not an unfounded fear, for the house sat directly beneath the Vortex, the magnificent but dilapidated wooden roller coaster that had delighted visitors to the rain-lashed Blackpool Pleasure Beach since 1962. Around the Vortex's 30th birthday, Annabel had been permitted to move into the previously reserved to store tools, and turn it into a dwelling from which to both live peacefully and ply her trade. For just 75p when she first started, later inflated to a still not unreasonable £4.50, giggling holidaymakers entered the glossy mint green door, settled at her mahogany table, sipped Earl Grey tea from a Wedgwood china, and had their palms read. To their delight, she caressed their hands with red lacquered talons, hooded her eyes beneath mascara-loaded lashes, and mapped out their future with a delicate up-down southern Irish cadence. Your lifeline is long, filled with twists and turns, but here it crosses your love line. Her words brought gentle reassurance to those who sought her predictions until, that is, the roller coaster thundered overhead, rattling the cups in their saucers and making the lights flicker and fizz. Annabel would wait till the carriages jostled to a halt, releasing a distinctive staccato wheeze, then continued her reading. When the last visitor of the day had left, Annabel would drink a glass of sherry from a fluted glass decanter, eat a poached eggs on toast, and retire to the adjacent bedroom. She had, in her halcyon days, lived, loved, and lost quite enough, thank you, and was, as she entered her 60s, content to draw her solitary existence around her like a warm blanket. Then Harry arrived. He knocked one day during her lunch break and let himself in uninvited, a Yorkshireman born and bred, with manners as coarse as his hands. He had been hired to run and maintain the Vortex, deploying the engineering skills he had acquired in the Navy. Just wanted to pop my head around the door and say, "Hoo-wee, it's like Aladdin's cave in here." He whistled through his tangled greying beard, admiring the countless trinkets and ornaments lining every wall and surface. "Oh, do be careful," quaked Annabel, as the large man leant over to study the line of model cottages, then swiftly confirmed her fears by spinning round and knocking her Swiss cuckoo clock to the floor, breaking it into pieces. "I can fix it, let me—" "Oh," protested Harry, as he was ushered backwards out of the door. It was an inauspicious start, but in truth, even the Archbishop of Canterbury might have left with a flea in his ear, since Annabel had long given up currying favour with anyone, instead courting unpopularity as if it were going out of fashion. However, over the years, Harry's persistently cheerful presence thawed the old lady's frosty disapproval until, Promising not to touch anything or move a muscle, Harry had talked himself into joining her at the end of his daily shift for high tea, as he called it, gently teasing Annabel for her resolutely old-fashioned airs and graces. And so when she heard the roller coaster make its final stop for the day, releasing its unmistakable juddering breath, Annabel would put the kettle on, pop bread in the toaster, and stifle a smile of quietly pleased anticipation. Their chats were cordial, unforced, sometimes dwindling into silence that never felt uncomfortable. Sometimes they played cards, sometimes Harry did odd jobs, mending a leaking tap, putting up a new shelf to house more tat that Annabel picked up from a flea market, or muttering about flickering lights that Annabel refused to get an electrician to fix. Their evenings ended without fail with Harry asking Annabel to read his palm and her denying him, playfully varying her refusals. Go on with you. Not on your Nelly. Not till hell freezes over. But one day when he asked, she answered with uncustomary frankness. Why do you want me to read your palm anyway, Harry? Sure, I think you know exactly what lies ahead of you, don't you? Harry nodded. I do, aye. She smiled, jerking her chin to elicit more. I sailed the world for 35 years, I put a good bit of money aside, and I think there's one place I'd want to spend the rest of my days. Lovely place it is, a dream. Where's that? Katakatesh. Excuse me? Katakatesh. Annabel cocked her head. I've never heard of it. What country is that in now? Oh, look it up on the internet, love. Really, I don't fuss with that sort of thing. You should. You can find anything on the internet. Good luck to you. I'll stay here, thank you. They'll be carrying me out. Perhaps her clairvoyant powers had prompted this statement because a few years later, firemen and paramedics called to the scene of an electrical fire near the Vortex roller coaster had to haul the 78-year-old lady out from the blaze, consuming her living room, crunching burnt and broken bric-a-brac under their heavy boots as they dragged her out of the door. The next day, arriving for work, Harry found himself staring at the burnt-out shell of Annabel's home, surrounded by people who could barely disguise their glee that finally they could demolish the tawdry shack and replace it with automatic parking machines or maybe make room for a Starbucks. Harry clenched his jaw. Annabel was in the hospital for 4 months. Some days it was touch and go as she drifted in and out of a bewildered haze, yet at times she swore she felt a coarse hand slip beneath hers on the crisp white sheet and hold it a while. She finally recovered, and the day she was discharged, the nurse handed her a key she didn't recognise, along with the rest of her belongings, and smiled. The gentleman who visited a few times said you can go home again now. Annabel frowned at the key in her palm the entire journey back to the pleasure beach, until at last, approaching the inimitable vortex, she spied the mint-green door of her old home, gleaming in the winter sunlight. She inserted the key, found it unlocked and pushed it open to find Harry standing in her living room. It was, for all intents and purposes, exactly as she left it, every trinket and ornament in place, the mahogany table set with Wedgwood china. Cuckoo! Trilled the cuckoo clock. How? She gulped, tears wetting her cheeks. Harry shrugged. Liquor paint. But my Aladdin's cave, she laughed as she said it. It's all here, I don't understand. I said you can find anything on the internet, didn't I? eBay, you should try it. She flapped her hand at him, then had to press it to her mouth again to push back sobs of joy. But, she gulped, you paid for all of this? How? Told you I had a bit of money put away. No, Harry, no, you wanted to go... What's the place? The place you talked about. How will you ever get there now? What was its name? You don't need to worry about that, love, whispered Harry. The roller coaster roared overhead. What was its name? How will you get there? Love, don't worry, listen. He held up a finger. Annabel listened. Wait, he said, smiling at his friend. Annabel listened, until finally they heard the roller coaster rattle and then come to a stop with its familiar sound. Katakatesh, it said. And there you go, that is Katakatesh by Adam English. A sweet little story for you there. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. Let me know any short stories that you've read in English or just any novels at all. I always enjoy a good read. I know it was a bit of a short one for today, but we'll get back to our usual listening next week. And as usual, make sure to download the transcript in the description below. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you in another episode next week. Bye.